This is Scott Morrison with Physiopraxis doing an equipment review. So I wanted to do a quick review of this little device called Tindeq, I believe. It was brought to my attention by one of the attendees of the Sloptimal Loading course this last weekend. It's got a little power button here on the front. If you go to the side, it's got this little slot where you can replace the battery. And basically what it is a wooden frame around a little load cell. It's calibrated to about 150 kilos, so a little over 300 pounds. 120% of that is kind of the safe range at which you start having issues, and it can potentially break at 150% of that. So I wouldn't be using it for an isometric mid-thigh pull, but it probably would work well for most of our other tests, although your soleus will exceed this pretty well. The quad on some people will definitely do so, especially if you attach it more proximally. Some of these setups you can adjust, so like the more distal you would apply this, the lower the forces that you would be getting with it. So it also has a pretty cool little app option here. So I'm gonna pull it up, and if you go to your initial part of the page, you push your little button on the device to turn it on, and it automatically turns off if it's not used for about 10 minutes. And then you select the device on the screen, and that, once it's connected, you're ready to go. You can hit tear if you want to zero things out. And then there's 4 main systems that you can do. You can do live data, which shows you actually just what's going on at the time while you're using it. So if you go ahead and give that a tug, you can see that the force changes based off of that pull. You can also go into this and do a peak load test. And the peak load samples at about 5 hertz, so it's relatively low. You need to cue a build up to and hold a peak in order to get it. But I do like the visual aspect of it. So if you're showing this to the patient, they get to see the big number of what's being done. I have it currently set on scientific units, so it's measuring in newtons, but you can also change this over to kilos or pounds. And it will record whatever your peak was. So it will hold the peak, and every time you hit a higher level, it'll show you that, and then you can save that if you want to with notes and what the test was that you did. It does have the ability to test rate of force with a significant caveat. This is measuring at about 70 or 80 hertz. We know that 500 hertz is where it starts being acceptable, and really around 1,000 is what you'd like to get. So maybe more of an early look at what could be done as opposed to something that you're going to put too much weight on. Rate of force development is something that's so volatile. You need a high sampling frequency in order to ensure that what you're doing is actually what you think you are. But the way the test is you get about a 5-second period, and over that period it will identify the highest rate of force throughout the time. So it'll give you a visual look, and it will identify the peak slope. But again, with that 70 hertz, I don't think that there's much we can take from this beyond just a really global look at what's going on. But these data are not going to be that reliable or that valid based off of that. And then the last one is an endurance test, which basically you set the time frame that you want them to hold for. And once that has set, you'll start the test pulling and trying to hold it, and it will give you a reading on the current, the average, the maximum, and how much time is left. So for some of your isometric type drills, this might be a really good device to do some isometric training, where you can do a peak test and then set, let's say, 85%, and then in your endurance test you can just use that as prescriptive. Or you could do live, which would also give that to you as well. So It's I think under $100 if I remember correctly. Cool little device. Just been playing with it today so far, and if you're limited on funding and you want something that might work well, this appears to be an option. Hasn't been calibrated. I believe it's been calibrated, not been validated, but you don't really need to validate a load cell. We know what it's measuring. So the key is calibration, which you do come with some paperwork that tells you what's been done, and there's a sticker that comes certifying it's been calibrated. So probably worth now and then recalibrating, but it looks like a really cool option. If you're looking to get something that's probably going to be a little bit more reliable and get you a little bit better readings than something like a crane scale would.